The annual ranch auction in the wide-open plains of Montana drew ranchers, horse trainers, collectors, and curious visitors from across the United States. Dust drifted through the warm morning air as horses neighed inside wooden pens, while auctioneers shouted prices that echoed across the fairgrounds. Jake Morrison stood quietly beside a handsome chestnut horse named Rusty. Unlike the expensive horses surrounding him, Rusty wore no fancy saddle or decorative ribbons. A simple cardboard sign hung from the fence with bold black letters that read, $50. Many people stopped, laughed, and walked away, convinced something had to be wrong with such a cheap horse. Jake never argued or tried to convince anyone. He simply rested his hand on Rusty's neck and patiently waited for someone willing to look beyond the price tag instead of judging by appearances. Jake had grown up on his family's struggling ranch just outside Billings. After years of drought, rising feed costs, and unpaid bills, his father had become too sick to continue working the land. Selling Rusty was the hardest decision Jake had ever made because the horse had been his companion since he was a teenager. Together, they had rounded up cattle, crossed rivers during storms, and spent countless evenings riding beneath Montana's colorful sunsets. Yet Jake knew his family needed money for medicine more than he needed another horse. Even so, he refused to raise the price simply because buyers expected it. He believed honesty mattered more than profit, and if someone appreciated Rusty for what he truly was, $50 would be enough. Late in the afternoon, when the crowd had begun to thin, the sound of an expensive black SUV rolling across the gravel parking lot caught everyone's attention. A confident young woman stepped out, wearing jeans, polished boots, and a white cowboy hat that looked almost too new for the dusty ranch. Her name was Emily Carter, a successful businesswoman from New York City who had recently inherited her late grandfather's ranch in Wyoming. Although she knew almost nothing about ranch life, she had traveled west hoping to learn instead of selling the property. As she walked through the auction, she noticed people ignoring Jake's horse. Curious, she approached the quiet cowboy and gently stroked Rusty's nose before asking with a warm smile, "Is the sign really correct? $50 for this beautiful horse?" Jake nodded without hesitation and explained that Rusty was healthy, dependable, and deserved a caring owner. Emily watched the way Rusty leaned comfortably against Jake, and she noticed the genuine affection in the cowboy's eyes. It was obvious the horse trusted him completely. Instead of bargaining over the price, Emily smiled in a way that surprised everyone standing nearby. Looking directly at Jake, she laughed softly and said, "I'll pay double if the cowboy comes with him." The conversation instantly fell. Silent before the surrounding crowd erupted into laughter and playful whistles. Jake stood frozen, unsure whether she was teasing him or making a serious offer. His face turned bright red while Rusty calmly nudged his shoulder, as though waiting to see what his best friend would decide next. The laughter around the auction yard slowly faded, but Jake still stood, speechless. Emily's smile never disappeared, making it impossible to tell whether she was joking or completely serious. Finally, she explained that she had inherited her grandfather's ranch outside Cody, Wyoming, only a few months earlier. She had spent her entire adult life building a successful business in New York City, yet she knew almost nothing about horses, cattle, or ranch work. Selling the property had crossed her mind many times, but every memory of her grandfather reminded her that the ranch deserved another chance. After watching Jake care more about his horse than the money, she realized he was exactly the kind of honest person she needed. She wasn't trying to buy a cowboy. She was asking for someone she could trust to teach her everything her grandfather had hoped she would one day learn. Jake looked at Rusty, then back at Emily. He appreciated the compliment, but he wasn't ready to leave his family behind for someone he had met only a few minutes earlier. Instead of accepting her offer immediately, he suggested a simple arrangement. He would travel to Wyoming for 1 week, help her understand the ranch, and then return home if she no longer needed him. Emily agreed without hesitation and bought Rusty for $100, exactly as she had promised. The following Monday, Jake loaded the horse into a trailer and drove west across rolling hills and mountain highways. When they finally reached the ranch, he found weathered fences, empty barns, broken equipment, and fields that had not been properly cared for in years. It was clear the place needed more than money. It needed patience, determination, and people willing to work. During that first week, Emily surprised Jake with her willingness to learn. She woke before sunrise, fed the horses, repaired fences despite blistered hands, and listened carefully whenever Jake explained how to care for livestock or read changing weather patterns. She made plenty of mistakes, but she never complained or acted as though hard work was beneath her. In return, Jake began seeing a different side of Emily. Beneath her confident business personality was a kind woman who genuinely wanted to honor her grandfather's legacy instead of chasing another financial success. Every evening, they sat on the ranch porch, watching the sun disappear behind the Wyoming mountains while Rusty grazed peacefully nearby. Their conversation slowly shifted from ranch work to family memories, personal dreams, and the unexpected paths life sometimes creates. When the week came to an end, Emily thanked Jake for keeping his promise and prepared to say goodbye, even though she secretly hoped he would stay. Jake walked across the ranch one final time, noticing how much life had already returned to the property in only a few days. He realized that for the first time in years, he felt hopeful about the future instead of worried about tomorrow. Smiling, he turned back to Emily and admitted that leaving no longer felt right. He decided to remain at the ranch, not because she had offered extra money, but because he believed they could build something meaningful together. Rusty became the heart of the ranch once again, reminding everyone that the greatest opportunities often begin with the smallest price tag and a single unexpected conversation.